from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. We're live and national. Unlike some of the other shows you might hear in this time slot, we didn't record this earlier today. We are live and taking your calls on 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys as you sound off on everything that's going on in America at night. But first, I want to get into some of the headlines, right? A lot going on. It's a toss-up for me. I don't know what to start with. Do I start with J-Lo crying at her speech for Kamala, or the media going crazy yet again saying Trump called for Liz Cheney to be put in front of a firing squad? I don't know. I guess I'm going to start with El Trompito. Because, I mean, firing squad, I think, beats J-Lo. Now, President Trump was in Glendale, Arizona yesterday, and he was talking about Liz Cheney, about her level of intelligence, about how aggressive she is on her stance on war. And I want to be very clear here. I am not a pacifistic Trump supporter, right? I am a Trump supporter, but I am also a war hawk. I also am very supportive of either one of my daughters signing up to go to the military. My daughter wanted to go. I was all about it. She changed her mind last minute. If they want to serve that way, that's fine. My brother Bobby served. God rest his soul. He's not around anymore. I think that to be the biggest fish in the pond, sometimes you're going to get into a scuffle. So I want to lay that out there because I do believe that. And some of you may want to turn your dial. I don't want you to, but you may want to. Now, Trump was making the case that Liz Cheney might not be such a war hawk if she had guns pointed at her, like in real war. Yet the media took this somewhere else, saying that he was trying to call for her assassination or call for her to be put in front of a firing squad, and trying to add to their own rhetoric about, his comments about the enemy within, yada, yada, yada. Listen to this.
I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person.
I'm going to agree with that part. I'm actually going to agree with the fact that he's saying that she's stupid. Now, I don't have an issue with Liz Cheney. I have an issue with some of the things she did as Republican conference chair and with the craziness that she did in the January 6th committee. But I don't want her put in front of any firing squad. You guys know me. I'm able to disagree with people politically and disagree with their positions on things and not wish them dead. Maybe some of you can't, but I totally can. Now, what I find crazy about this whole thing is you heard what Trump said. It was a short clip there, part of a speech. Now, of course, they glob on to absolutely anything to try and twist his words. And Kamala Harris and the rest of the media, no different. Kamala Harris is on the tarmac in Wisconsin today commenting on Trump's comment on Cheney that this is how this should disqualify him, in effect, from being president. Listen to this.
He has increased his violent rhetoric, Donald Trump has, about political opponents, and in great detail, suggested rifles should be trained on former Representative Liz Cheney. This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president. Representative Cheney is a true patriot who has shown extraordinary courage in putting country above party.
I've heard enough. Que mala eres. This is nonsense. Listen, here's the story. Ultimately, Trump said none of those things, right? He did say rifles trained on her face if she were in war, if she were on the front lines. Then maybe she wouldn't be a war hawk. I think that's a fair assessment. You could say the same thing about me. You could say, oh, Valdez is ready to ship off any one of those kids to war. What about his own kids? Well, you'd be wrong there. I'd be willing to ship my own kids too. And guess what? I tried to go too, and I couldn't. So guess what? You got me there. But maybe my attitude would change if I was there, if I saw some of the carnage, if I lost some of my friends. That might be a thing. But that's not the thing, and that's where I am. Now, I am going to say this. They're lying about Trump. He didn't say these things. And what's really interesting here is Trump is not a fool and he's not unhinged. And if anybody on the left is listening, pay very close attention to what I'm about to teach you. Trump's doing this on purpose. He does this it's always a double entendre, right? He's brilliant at this. He's talking about her not being a war hawk. Why? Because he is a pacifist. And that's his position. And I support that. For him, great. Because when push comes to shove, he's ready to shove. And that's why I've always supported him. But now, here's the clever part. Last week, they were saying it's all about the enemy within. He's going to use the troops to come after American citizens. Yet last week, there was a caller who called in and brought to our attention that there was this Department of Defense directive number, blah, 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 point, blah, blah, blah. And it was the reauthorization of this Department of Defense directive that talked about the use of force in the public. And I think I read it. I read it on the air. I don't have it in front of me, otherwise I would read it again. Bottom line here is, from my understanding of it, was not that it was something brand new, that this was something that had happened before and was happening again. It was kind of a reauthorization, a renewal of an existing thing. Doesn't mean it's a good thing. I'm just saying that was my initial take on it. But the bottom line here is, if anybody believes in the comments that Jamie Raskin made when he said there's going to be civil unrest because we won't certify the election because he should be disqualified. And now Kamala Harris saying he's not qualified to be president. Right? Because it sounds like they're going to try and make a case against him at some point, either right now or maybe even in the future, saying he's, in the court of public opinion, according to them, he's guilty of January 6th of inciting an insurrection. He's now guilty of inciting an insurrection against Liz Cheney, right? Calling for guns to be trained on her. Meanwhile, the only one that had guns trained on them is him. The only one that's taken a shot to the head in his ear is him. Yet they leave that out conveniently. And it's very convenient that they leave it out, because here's a guy that was shot at saying she'd be very different. She'd be singing a different tune if these guns were pointed at her. I think that is a very fair comment, a very fair point to make. So the question becomes, why does Trump say these things? That's exactly why he says them. So that they can turn around and say Trump wants to shoot Liz Cheney. Trump wants to use the military against his political opponents. Trump is going to come and jail us all. Meanwhile, they're the ones actually trying to do it. So if you think somebody's going to come out, he's playing their game. He says these things so that they could say, oh, you wouldn't do that, would you, Mr. Trump? Oh, Mr. Trump, how dare you? What does that do? That means that now if they do exactly what they accused him of, they're double guilty. Because they're going to be like, oh, I thought it was wrong, right? Even the media. I could see Anderson Cooper going, but didn't you just say 5 minutes ago that he shouldn't have said those things about Liz Cheney, and now you're going to shoot at Trump, and you're going to shoot at American people, and you're going to, right? You just can't do it. You can't do it. So, in effect, he's inoculating them. He's taking their argument to the most logical and illogical extreme without them even realizing it. They're doing the work for him. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So kudos to El Trompito for doing that. He's always a few steps ahead of them because he gets how they work. They're pretty simple-minded. And he knows that they're going to come after him. So he says stuff just so that they'll come after him. so that when they do come after him, he can go, oh, so you're all on the record saying we shouldn't use the military to go after political opponents, we shouldn't weaponize the government, and we shouldn't talk about killing people. Because, by the way, it wasn't a Trump supporter that shot at President Trump, was it? Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, keep it locked right there. We're going to come back. I don't know if you remember Bo and Luke, the Dukes of Hazzard, right? Show I used to watch as a little kid. My brothers used to watch the reruns. Anyway, Bo Duke, a.k.a. John Schneider, the actor, has been on the program before. He's got a brand new song that he did with the W-2s, and we're going to hear a little bit about that and his thoughts on the election and so much more when we come back. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, now you might remember the good old boys, right? Bo and Luke Duke from the Dukes of Hazzard. We've got this brand new song, and it's called Don't Donald the Trump, and it's performed by John Schneider, who is one of the good old boys, and I want you to listen to this. All right, that is Don't Donald the Trump by John Schneider, who you may know as Bo Duke on the Dukes of Hazzard or Jonathan Kent on Smallville. But he's also a singer, and he performed that with the W-2s, and John Schneider's back with us. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, thank you. What a trip that was. The gentleman who produced that is Peter Wolf, is won so many awards. Not the Jay Giles band, Peter Wolf, but the Peter Wolf that did all the music for Top Gun, and a wonderful composer. He's amazing. So I actually met Peter when I was doing The Masked Singer, and
how fun.
A couple of months later, well, that was a whole other story, whole other trip. Wow. But he called me, and I thought he wanted me to be, like one of the many people singing on "We Are the World." And I showed up at the studio, and I thought, oh my God, he wants me to sing this song, so I'm gonna have to go for it. And it was so much fun. He's a great guy. His wife is a great gal, and they had their son there, so it's kind of a family affair. But I don't know if you notice it or not, but there's a real they're European, so there's a real underground European grunge sound to this song that I never ever would have thought to do or thought that I could do. So I'm excited about it, and I like the message anyway. Don't no matter what you throw on this guy, I think he comes out. What do they call Clinton? Was like the Teflon man.
Yeah, he's a real Teflon Don.
The Teflon, yeah, absolutely. So it's exciting. We're living in very interesting times right now. What do we have? We have 4 days. 4 days until Election Day, and then there's no telling how long it'll take. With this amazing technology we have, isn't it funny that with the technology we have, every 4 years it takes longer to count the votes?
Yeah, it's the craziest thing ever. And every year we're hearing about more and more irregularities and glitches and things that aren't working. John Schneider, it's absolutely crazy.
Fires in the ballot boxes, right? We've got people setting fire. It's insane.
Yeah, today there were some reports of people saying they were elections officials telling people that they had to close the line, and they didn't even work for the county or the city. They were just telling people to get off the line.
It doesn't surprise me, because every time Kamala Harris opens her mouth, she basically does a campaign speech for the right. She is not, as far as I can tell, other than when unless CBS intervenes, she has not really. She has not really put together a complete sentence. She's not spoken a bit about policy. And I'm not the smartest guy in the room by any means, in any room, but I mean, I think that how you win is by being for something. I don't think you can gather an immense crowd, an immense effective crowd, by being against. We are willing to die for something. I don't know that we're willing to die against something. I don't know. Maybe, I'm only 64. I'm just creeping into middle age here. But it seems to me that what's been going on the left side with the Democrat side, the liberal side, is that they could not possibly have made more mistakes. Everything they do, to me, seems to be an error. It seems to be poorly advised and bad judgment. Or as my father would say, a bad plan poorly executed.
Folks, we're on with John Schneider, actor, filmmaker, musician. And it's a great quote. I'm likely going to steal it if I can remember it. And
go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll try to give credit if I remember. If not, I'll just do a Biden.
Well, you only have to do that the first time. It's the first time, and then so the first time you say, my dad always said, and then the second time you say, I've heard it said, and then the third time you say, I've always said.
Yeah.
So,
That's the evolution of stealing a quote.
Tim Waltz understands that perfectly.
Oh, Tim Waltz
but
is
anyway.
special. Now, John Schneider, with the minute to go before we take our first break, and we're going to come back and talk about it. I remember the last time you were on, it was a factoid that I didn't know that I think I remember it. And if I'm misremembering it, you correct me if I'm wrong. But you started out in country music and then became an actor. Is that right?
Well, I started out in musical theater.
And
then became an actor. Musical theater. But my dad, I'm from Mount Kisco, New York. Which is the same county that AOC is from, which is just very odd. But my father was in a square dance band, so I would say that my roots in music were country music, certainly. But the music, I would always say that when people said, actors shouldn't go out and sing, and I said, look, dude, I'm really not an actor who's trying to sing. I'm a singer who's trying to act.
I love it. It sounds like a good plan executed well. John Schneider, hang on for a second.
That's fantastic.
See that?
Right here.
See what I did there? We're coming back, folks. John Schneider, also known as Bo Duke from the Dukes of Hazzard. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Made in America, like a pile of Detroit steel. Used to be Ford tough and now electric trucks just make me spin my wheels. Made in America, like my dad's old Craftsman wrench. Ain't betting on any Beijing BS to fix what's broken bent. Give me a buck knife, cause this don't cut it. Don't gotta like it, but damn I love it. Freedom was made in America.
That's Made in America by John Schneider. Again, you might know him better from his days on television as Bo Duke on the Dukes of Hazzard or Jonathan Kent on Smallville. He's been all over the place. He was on The Masked Singer. I mean, what a career spanning decades. He's also, in addition to his acting, He's got 20 albums to his credit and 5 #1 singles on the Billboard country chart. Matter of fact, my producer, Count Delacula, used to spin his records back in the day. Welcome back, John Schneider.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very, very much. I'm glad you're playing Made in America. That's an important album for me. Wrote it with some young folks in Nashville, and it's not only a reminder that we live in I believe, the greatest country ever, but it's also a call to action, saying, basically, if you want to keep living in the greatest country ever, then it's up to you, it's up to us to keep it that way. So the actual song, Made in America, it says, I pray it ain't too late to fix the mistakes made in America. So I'm very proud of that. I love this country. I was born in 1960. I was too young for Vietnam and too old for anything else. So I feel that we have a responsibility, a right, yes, but an obligation as well, to make sure that we honor those folks who have provided us with the freedoms that we enjoy every day. So there's another song on that record, on that album, and young people don't know what an album is, but there's one on there called "Thank You for Your Sacrifice," and that was written specifically for our Gold Star families. Folks who have there are folks who have given a limb, they've given 2 or 3, but there are folks who've given a loved one. Many dads and moms didn't come home. 13 from Afghanistan that come to mind right off the bat, and their families are at home trying to deal with that loss. And my wife passed away. It'll be 2 years in February, and dealing with loss is a very hard thing. Grief is a very hard thing. So when someone takes a knee, which I suppose constitutionally speaking is their right, but when someone does that and there's someone seeing that who lost a loved one who gave their life for this country and for our collective freedoms, it really, really, I'm just gone from New York, it pisses me off. So I had to do something. I had to do something about that. And, the only weapon I have, my weapon of choice, is storytelling. So that's what that's about.
Well, I want to remind the audience that that's, I think, the first time we had you on, that's what we were talking about, the amazing story of your wife and the book that she'd written. And I love this tribute to America that you're putting together, because I think it's important. And John Schneider, as you've had a somewhat storied career in entertainment, both as a singer and an actor. And what's your take on where America's at today? You're talking about all the great things in America and the sacrifices that are made by Americans for Americans. And here we are today with some of the people in the highest office in the land, seemingly, at least in my opinion, turning their backs on America.
Yeah, I see that a lot, and it's really distressing. That's why I think we have, one of the songs says it's a duty, it's a right, an obligation. We have to fight for our country. I do believe that we are being overrun. We have been overrun for the last 3.5 years or so. It didn't start there, but I think the seeds were planted years ago, but I think the little sprouts came up of socialism, of communism, all under the guise of trying to help people out. But I believe that we are the land of opportunity, and what opportunity is not a free lunch. Opportunity is an atmosphere whereby people who want to work their butts off, who have a dream, who feel that God designed them to do something, can go out and go for it. And when you go for it, you can spend your life pursuing your dream. And I think a life spent pursuing a dream, pursuing a goal, is a life well spent. However, I think that a handout cripples a society, and I think our society has been intentionally crippled over the last little while. And I do hope, and I pray, and I vote, and I talk to people all the time about, we've got to get our country back. So I believe we have been headed in the wrong direction, and it's the damage that has happened to our country since COVID is it's terrible. The damage that happened to our borders, not just our southern borders, our borders in general, is a travesty, and I think it's nothing short of treason. I've said that publicly, and got in some trouble. But some trouble is worth getting into. And I'm thankful I live in a country where I can say what is on my mind, and I am willing to do whatever it takes to protect the United States of America that I grew up in, not this one that's emerged over the last 15 years or so. I think we've gone down the wrong road, and I think it's up to us to grab a hold of the steering wheel. The General Lee is going to miss the ramp if we don't grab a hold of that steering wheel and aim it in the right direction. And I believe that we're going to do that. I think we're going to do that, and I'm very much looking forward to what happens in 4 days. And I've done my part. We'll see what goes down. But there are people burning ballot boxes. Right. There are things going on already. Well, of course they'd be going on already, but there are things going on that are questionable already. And I remember talking to some friends of mine in 2020, and the word from the left was, there was fraud, but not enough to make a difference. Well, my question to you is, how much fraud is enough fraud, or how much is too much? How much is not enough?
John Schneider, it reminds me
I
of
was raised.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well,
After
I was raised that if you can only trust somebody so far, then you can't trust them at all. There's no such thing as a little white lie. If you're going to lie, then you're a liar. If you're going to cheat, then you're a cheater. You can't say, "Well, I only cheated a little bit." Try that at a casino in Vegas. So I think we're about to be on a good track again. I think we're going to have Donald Trump as president for the next 4 years, and then I really think we're going to have J.D. Vance as president for 8 years after that. I really do. That's what.
From your lips to God's ears. I hope that's exactly how it goes down, folks. We're on with John Schneider, and we're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
That's I Want to Thank You by John Schneider. And John Schneider, I'm listening to that, and it's a great song. It's you've got such a way with bringing these things to life. These these ideas, these lyrics,
thank you.
and putting
Thank
them
you.
together. Really, they come out so nicely when you package the whole thing, and it's for me. It's like, wow, this is the same guy that was flying in the General Lee. How cool was that?
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah,
wanna
true.
know, how much of that was you? How much of it was the stuntman?
Well, I didn't. When we did the show, I never jumped the car. I've jumped the car since in several movies since then, but and I've got a couple more jumps in my life. It's very cool. But a lot of the sliding, the '90s and coming into town, and I did a lot of the driving. But I'd say maybe 40%, is a really good estimate. Because we're out there, and in those days there were 3 networks, and
Yeah.
you've got 7 people on the cast, and if Bo, Luke, or Daisy break their back jumping a car, then there's about 250 people that'll be out of work for a while.
Wow.
So I wanted to, but it wasn't until much later, until I had control of my own stuff and did the movies in Louisiana, that I actually got to drive the cars and jump the cars. So that was for Stand On It and Poker Run and Christmas Cars, and it was fun though. But way back, I mean, hell, I was only 18 when I started Dukes of Hazzard, so it was talk about a kid in a candy store.
Right.
But
Man,
I did
sounds
a
like a
show
blast.
for Tyler Perry. I did a Tyler Perry show for 8 years,
Oh, he's funny.
and played a mean, nasty. I mean, I made J.R. Ewing look like a choir boy in the Haves and Have-Nots. So it's been it's been such a wonderful time, because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of movies. I'm a fan of television.
Yeah.
And to be part of all that, really, I truly am again like a kid in a candy store. It's wonderful.
I can relate to that. I love talk radio. I love talk radio before I got into talk radio. And every year when I go to the Talkers Convention and I meet the people whose voices I've been listening to forever, it's always so much fun. It's like, oh, I know you. You're famous. It's always a good time.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoy it.
I think when celebrities stop becoming fans, I think that's when they turn into bad people.
Yeah.
You've got to. I mean, if somebody takes the time to drive to a concert, or somebody takes the time to turn on your show, or somebody takes the time to go watch your movie or your TV show or listen to you speak, then by God, then the person who's standing there in the light, you, me, we need to understand who we work for. We work for those people out there who have taken the time to enjoy what we do. And the folks that have lost sight of that, it really aggravates me when I see celebrities who are nasty people. And I haven't seen that many, but when I do, it's like, come on, seriously? You don't work for CBS or ABC or Paramount or NBC or iHeartRadio. You work for that person out there in the front row and that person out there in the back row. That's who you work for. And that's what I think the difference, and it's so strange to me, because I knew Donald Trump a little bit way back, in the 90s. And the fact that this guy seems to really, really understand, and I think it's because he built so many buildings and talked to so many contractors and to so many day laborers, he gets it. Yes, he's got this big plane and all this stuff, but he really seems to understand what it's like to have to put food on the table. And then when you look at since in the last 3.5 years, what is it? Basic lifestyles like $28,000 more. I mean, I know what fuel costs. That's just terrible. Well, and it's that, but it's the price of a head of lettuce. It's the price of a dozen eggs. It's the price of a gallon of gas or a gallon of diesel. I mean, we should not in this country have to be deciding whether or not we want to go to the movies or put fuel in our car. You know, we have gone. If folks who are listening, if you have not voted yet, please vote. If you are on the fence, then I would like to push you toward the fence, toward the side of common sense. And I do believe that that's the conservative side. I believe that if folks can't see that Kamala Harris and Tim what's-his-name, Stolen Valor, are just the puppets, absolute puppets of the globalist elite, then please open your eyes, wake up and see what's going on. We've got to take our country back. We've got to get our country back, because if the United States of America goes away, then the whole notion, the whole dream of freedom throughout the entire world goes away. We were the one country that got it right, and we've got to get it back. And yes, Mom and Dad, and yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. We have got to make America great and greater again.
Amen to that, John Schneider. I want to let everybody have a chance to know exactly where to go to your website, how to find you. Where do they go?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. You'll recognize it because it has We the People right there. So John Schneider on Facebook. But if you want to go check out some things at the store, it's johnschneider.shop. But if you just look me up, I mean, I'm everywhere. This is an amazing world we live in now. I mean, I can do a video on my phone after we hang up, and I can have it in front of 1 million people in 30 seconds. It's just amazing what the times we live in now.
Amen.
And I would appreciate. I'm doing good. I just want you to go out and vote. Vote your heart. Vote your country. Vote your patriotism. So that come January 21st, we can say goodbye to these folks who have taken over our country. And I believe that the big difference is they are policy over people, and we are people over policy. You've got 4 days. If you think I'm out of my mind, then maybe I am, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pause it right there. We got to wrap up here. John Schneider, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Folks, check him out at his website, thejohnschneider.com. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you very much. God bless you. God bless America. Vote, everybody. We got a country to save.
Amen to that. Folks, are coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So all year long, they've been reporting on the jobs numbers, and saying we have a strong economy despite, all the inflation, because we have a very solid jobs market. And then it turned out, guess what? It wasn't that solid. They were reporting fake, phony, and fraud job numbers, right? That happened last month. Well, guess what? This month's job numbers came in. They expected 113,000 jobs. How many did we really get? 12,000. Not 112,000. 12,000. They missed it by 110,000. That's horrible. Missing by over 100,000 jobs is abysmal. That's the October jobs report. Who are you voting for next Tuesday? Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of our program. It is the Friday night edition. We're live and national. The phone number, if you want to call, feel free, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to get into a couple of things. I'm going to be getting to a couple of calls, by the way, in a little bit, maybe in I don't know, a little bit. And first, I got to go over a few things. So today I log into Instagram, and I see a video of a voter, a woman, and she says, this happened in Kentucky. Somebody went to go vote in Kentucky, and they took a video of them trying to vote, and then she says, watch the video. So the video comes out, and the guy is inside the voting booth, and it says Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and he's pressing the on-screen button for Donald Trump, and it won't check. The little tick mark in the corner, it won't do it. And he keeps pressing it, and it keeps checking Kamala Harris. And she says, this may not be happening everywhere, but this is happening in Kentucky, so beware. I shared this on my Instagram story. Might have been on my Facebook story as well, if you want to see the video, at Rich Valdez. And an hour or two later, I get a message from Instagram that says, independent fact checkers have deemed that you've shared information that was false. And you're now ineligible to use certain Instagram features. Your feed will be placed in a lower place of visibility, and this will be the case for 90 days. Now, that to me sounds like they're trying to minimize my reach when we're 4 days from Election Day. I think everybody there knows who I'm rooting for. So the thumb is clearly on the scale. Now, I'm going to fight it over the weekend, but I probably won't get any resolution till Monday if I'm lucky at all. But if you guys want to give them hell over the weekend, feel free. You know, say, hey, free Rich Valdez, or whatever it is you want to say to them. But the point here is not me. The point here is that Fox 56 News reported the story. Right? They're reporting a story saying that in Laurel, Kentucky, county officials have spoken out after a video began to circulate showing a ballot marking device malfunctioning. Early voting commenced in Kentucky on Thursday, but one Laurel County voter shared a video on TikTok that showed the voter attempting to make their selection, but the machine wasn't receiving the voter's input. The machine affected prints of paper ballots on the voter's input. So the video shows the voter, which is what I just told you, trying to cast her vote for Donald Trump numerous times. However, the machine didn't indicate the voter's selection and eventually just selected Kamala Harris. The video on TikTok has over 1 million views. On Instagram, the video's been, circulated all over the place, and everybody's seeing it. So around 2 p.m. on Thursday, Laurel County Clerk Tony Brown said, the error was reported and the device was checked. However, officials weren't able to replicate the error. The machine has been taken out of service and we're waiting for the Attorney General's office to arrive. We had no complaints prior to or after that complaint. We have left the machine in full view and are awaiting further instructions, said Mr. Brown. Fox 56 reached out to the Attorney General's office, who said they were aware of the reported issue. Quote, we contacted the county clerk who confirmed the voter error and that the ballot marking machine works correctly, said the Attorney General's office. If you notice something wrong with your ballot machine, alert a poll worker immediately. According to the Attorney General's office, Kentuckians who witness election irregularities or possible election law violations are encouraged to call 800-328-8683. And this continued, right? Now, next part of the story, right here. Headline, Kentucky clerk confirms video where voter couldn't cast the ballot for Donald Trump did occur after initial denial. A Kentucky county clerk was forced to issue a retraction just 3 hours after effectively denying a viral video where someone was unable to vote for Donald Trump. Ain't that something? Laurel County Clerk Tony Brown said on Thursday that there had been an incident with one of the electronic ballot marking devices. The incident in question came amid a voter's video where they tried to vote for Trump, and it ended up coming out for Harris. So now the question is, it did occur. That's a quote from the Kentucky County Clerk confirming that the voting booth glitch shifted votes from Trump to Kamala. We checked it and couldn't recreate it, Brown said in a since-deleted Facebook post. We had no complaints prior to or after. The Attorney General's office, blah, blah, blah. I gave you that part already. Some people are wondering now why incidents like this happen and why do they always favor Democrats? Just like the ABC News that came out with an on-screen report, at the bottom of the screen, that lower third, the chyron, saying that Trump had lost Pennsylvania to Kamala Harris, getting it by 52%. We haven't even had an election yet. They said, oh, no, we're just making sure the system worked. And how'd you come up with the score? Why wouldn't it say 0-0? I mean, when we talk about the level of crazy that's going on, it really makes you think. If everybody's cheating, and I don't think everybody is, but if everybody's cheating, shoot, we're living in fantasy land. Now, I don't want to say that that's the case. I think that you have many instances of irregularities, if you want to call them that, of people that are desperate and are going to do whatever they can to win. And that can happen either way, right? But we tend to only see it on one side, as crazy as that sounds. So that's what's going on with this Kentucky thing. And there's a whole string with photos and everything on Twitter and on the Bongino Report and other places. And like I said, Fox56news.com has a story on it as well, out of Kentucky. So that's the story in Kentucky. And I'm still being censored on Instagram because I shared a video. I didn't say anything. All I said was, put your sound on. So we're going to find out how this thing ends up. And any updates on that, I'll be getting to you as we get them. But I also want to find out what's going on in Michigan. Things are tight in Michigan. It's one of the battleground states that is constantly in the news, and we're going to get an update on that straight ahead. Keep it locked right here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
The top military advisor of Kamala Harris is Liz Cheney, the bloodthirsty person who advocates for more wars in the Middle East. And they would want to send our sons, and we have so many people in the military from our community, from the Arab American community. They would want to send them to fight their own people in the Middle East. President Trump keeps attacking the pro-war radicals, those war hawks, who are the top military advisor of Kamala Harris. And they want to create more wars in the Middle East. President Trump appreciated and respected our community like it never happened before. We have a line of communication with the White House if President Trump wins, and this has never happened before. So let's not miss out this opportunity and vote for President Trump, not for the war hawks, the bloodthirsty people that would take credit if Kamala Harris wins this election. So please, my message to the Arab American people, vote for Trump and don't miss this opportunity, because we will advocate for peace using our line of communication.
That is a clip from the mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, if I'm saying that right. And his name is Amir Ghalib. This is the only city in the United States that is majority Muslim. And again, repeating the line that the top military advisor of Que Mala Eres is Liz Cheney, and she's a bloodthirsty war hawk. Michigan is definitely in play, and I want to get the scoop on what's going on there from our guest, Tom Barrett. He's running for Congress in the 7th District. Tom, welcome back.
Rich, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You bet. And you know what? I wanted to have you back on because we're a few days away from Election Day, and I want to make sure that everybody that is in your area of the world that we're on in and we are on in Michigan has an opportunity to hear what you're all about and hear what's going on, your reaction to the news that's going on of Michigan. And I just want to make sure they have a chance to know you and cast their vote for you. So what's your thought about what Mayor Hamtramck said in this controversy with President Trump?
Yeah, thank you. It's actually pronounced Hamtramck, and historically was a Polish community. In fact, when Pope John Paul came to Michigan, when he was Pope, visited Hamtramck because of the roots it has as a very ethnically Polish community in Michigan. Now is predominantly settled by Arab immigrants and Muslims, and has a majority Muslim community now. And I believe their city council is, if not entirely, it's substantially, Muslim, city council and mayor. That's not a part of my district, but it's certainly a focal point in Michigan, given the news like you were talking about. And I was actually at President Trump's rally in Novi, Michigan, not far from there, last weekend, and he had a delegation of Muslim leaders from Michigan that got up on stage and conveyed basically the message that you played earlier, which is one that, has, I think, something that resonates with people, whether they're in Michigan or any other part of the country. One where we had a peace dividend, really, when President Trump was in office. Our economy was booming. Wars were winding down. We didn't have Americans dying in conflicts, and we were moving ourselves in the right direction, and peace was stable throughout the world, relatively speaking, and that's been completely not the case since then. I personally spent 22 years, an entire career in the United States Army, deployed around the world in a multitude of different places, had tremendous opportunities in the Army, and really felt this sense of concern and frustration and just devastation when President Biden presided over that just absolutely disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, where so many of our troops were killed. And what we've seen as an outcome of that, with adversaries abroad getting stronger and America becoming weaker, is what all of us have witnessed.
Folks, we're on with Tom Barrett. Tom Barrett's a Republican running for Congress in Michigan's 7th District. And Tom Barrett, with this news that we're hearing, and again, what the mayor of Hamtramck was talking about was President Trump making certain comments, and the comments were about Liz Cheney not being so tough if she was, in the line of fire, and saying if there was a rifle trained on her or 9 people pointing guns at her. And this is being, in my opinion, misconstrued as him calling for a firing squad, as opposed to what I think the point was saying, look, if this woman were serving, she wouldn't be so bloodthirsty.
Right. And that's what we see with a lot of these elites, is that, they're all too willing to send other people's sons and daughters into harm's way without actually doing it themselves or for their own families. They'll outsource that to other people, and they will profit tremendously off of that. The Cheney family is no different. I did a deployment myself in Iraq in 2008, and we all know that the Cheney family, thank you, and we all know that the Cheney family benefited tremendously financially from that. And now you see Liz Cheney going out and attacking Republican candidates across the board. 2 years ago, came in and endorsed my Democrat opponent. I had never met Liz Cheney a day in my life. And here I serve in her, the war that her dad was the architect of. And the thanks I get from the Cheney family that she comes to my district to try and influence the election against me 2 years ago in one of the most competitive races in America. And that has been what Liz Cheney is now doing time and time and time again, going after candidates, many of whom served in these wars, and going after them and supporting their Democratic opponents, because there's a new generation of Republicans coming up, especially those that served in Iraq or Afghanistan, that simply want a better foreign policy out of our government that keeps Americans safe, peace through strength, but doesn't put American boots on the ground in every conflict around the world. And I really think we can do that. And I think that there are so many veterans in my generation that want to step up and see that happen. And you're seeing more and more of that around the country. It's a big part of my platform on my website, TomBarrettForCongress.com. I have my 4 pillars of security that are really the honed down core issues of this campaign: economic security, border security, neighborhood security, and national security. And those are the 4 core issues I think that are facing America today that we have to confront.
You know, Tom Barrett, I think you're spot on. And in in my world, I'm just thinking the first 2 are probably the most critical. If we don't have the economy right, and we don't have national security, the border right, we're in bad shape. And you guys get a fair share of that in Michigan, because that northern border there, it's getting a lot more play now that the southern border is getting overwhelmed. What's how are things looking for you with getting your message out? How's it looking with the race against your opponent? I'm guessing, you're giving it all you got. Is that going to be enough?
Yeah, I sure hope it is. And, as I said, I put 22 years of my life into the United States Army. It was the greatest adventure of my life and a tremendous privilege to be able to do that. I had never even been on an airplane until I joined the Army.
Wow.
By the time I was done, I had flown over 1,000 hours as a helicopter pilot, and really could only do that in America and in our military, and the opportunity I was afforded. And it was, it wasn't pleasant every day, but it had a purpose behind it. And that's really what I'm looking to do again by going to Congress, is to do hard work, but hard work with a purpose. And that's how I've looked at this campaign, putting everything I have into it, because I'm asking people for their hard-earned money and campaign contributions, the time that they could be spending doing something else to volunteer on my campaign, for the vote that they could give to any candidate of their choosing, to vote for me, to send me to Washington on their behalf. And if I'm asking from those, for those things from people that have worked so hard in their life, then I owe them everything I have to try and win this race, to go and represent them with pride and honor from my district here in Michigan, to be our voice in Washington, D.C., and represent families like mine. My wife and I are raising 4 kids here in this district. We see and face the same challenges that other families are, and we feel that our family doesn't have a voice in Washington today, and we want to change that, and that's why I'm running. I'm glad that the polling has me with a narrow lead right now. It's definitely nothing we can take for granted, but there's been some movement on the ground by a lot of the political forecasters, kind of giving us a slight edge in this race, but one that we certainly can't take for granted as we go into Election Day, here just very quickly.
Tom Barrett, quickly give everybody the website. I want anybody who's in Michigan or anywhere in the country, honestly, if you can donate and you want to donate, you want to help Tom Barrett get elected and maintain that lead for the next 4 days and get across the finish line with Trump. Tom, give him the website.
Thank you. It's TomBarrettForCongress.com. We need your help. We just need a little bit more to get past the finish line.
Amen, brother. Godspeed to you. If I can get you on one more time before Election Day, I will. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. All right, amigos, we're coming right back. More to come straight ahead. What are they doing with kids? They keep attacking the kids. Keep it locked here.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Scrolling through the Facebook page for Reverend Johnson, who was Chicago's new school board president. In one post, he calls the Hamas attack on Israel a, quote, absolute right. In another, he shared a video with the words, quote, when a man earns money, he dreams of giving his family and his wife the best. But when a woman earns money, she feels she does not need her man and her family. Sounds harsh, but it's reality, he wrote. Sad facts. Then a repost supporting a 9/11 conspiracy theory. It says 9/11 really was an inside job. Reverend Johnson's caption, facts.
I had no words, actually.
In a joint statement, Alderwoman Deborah Silverstein and dozens of other alders called the board president's appointment a terrible mistake.
The Jewish community, not just in my ward, but throughout the city of Chicago, feels alienated. They feel that the city does not have their back.
Reverend Johnson issued an apology for his actions before he resigned. I want to take a moment, he says, to apologize to the Jewish community. The remarks I posted were reactive and insensitive, and I am deeply sorry for not being more precise and deliberate in my comments posted last year.
There is a school board meeting scheduled for tomorrow. The Johnson administration says that will still go on according to plan without a president. They say they'll proceed promptly to find a qualified person to take that place. Sabrina Franza, CBS News, Chicago.
Now that's what's going on in Chicago, in the Windy City, WLS country. But that needs to happen in a lot more places, right? Welcome back, everybody. It's Rich Valdez live with you till 1 a.m. Eastern time. And what I think needs to happen here is we need to get rid of more school board people. And I say that with all due respect as a school board person myself. And I can tell you, you got to do the right thing. And when you're not doing the right thing, you need to be removed. Because there's too many kids in this country that are being taught to hate America. There are too many kids in this country that are being led astray. And nobody knows that better than Michele Exner, Senior Advisor at Parents Defending Education. Michele, welcome.
Thanks so much, Rich. I appreciate that nice welcome.
My pleasure. And it's, you know, when I was a kid, one of the rappers I grew up with was KRS-One, and he had lyrics that said, "Could there ever be justice on stolen land?" And this was part of his grievance. And I still like KRS-One. I've learned better with respect to history, and I know that I disagree with that part of it. But there were other things that, you know, I did agree with. And overall, whether I agree or disagree with music or even films, you know, I like action movies and I don't go out killing people every day. A lot of this stuff is entertainment. But when it comes to education, this isn't entertainment. This is what kids are learning. And you have an op-ed that you recently penned called Land and Labor Acknowledgments Teach Students to Hate America. And I want you to walk us through it because I feel like that is a big part of the problem we're facing as Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. So to give your listeners a little bit of background here, so at Parents Defending Education, we started seeing a trend of school boards, school districts starting to implement what's referred to as land acknowledgments and labor acknowledgments in their districts. So either it's being read before a school board meeting convenes, it's being integrated into staff training, it's being it just incorporated into the schools in different settings. So to briefly describe what both of those terms mean, so we'll start with land acknowledgement. It's a formal statement that the school has incorporated that's intended to recognize whatever native tribe or people they've regarded as being so-called the original inhabitants of the lands the school district staff and students occupy. And with labor acknowledgement, it's referring to exploited labor and slavery, which contributed to the economic development of that region, according to what these folks believe. So, you know, when you first listen to it, well, it doesn't sound that bad. But really, what the intended objective, right, is really getting children to hate America, right? America's founding is July 4th, 1776. This is an established fact that we all know. We come together every July 4th to recognize that special day of the founding of our country. And so when these school boards incorporate these statements, it's watering down our right to our own country, right? It's making children feel guilty and even probably disdain for America, right? Which is disgusting. That's not a school's role. A school's role is to teach them academic fundamentals that will ensure that they are able to live, fulfilling professional lives once they graduate. And unfortunately, they've gone so far off course with implementing things like this in their curriculum.
Michele, what's the solution to a problem like this, in your opinion?
Parents standing up and said this is unacceptable. You know, I think this is something, and I say this as a parent myself, I didn't know that this was a thing until we started looking into it at Parents Defending Education. And so right now we're just really creating that communication so parents are aware, right? We're making sure that folks across the country, other parents, advocates know to look out for this, right? And pay attention. So look through the correspondence with your school districts, right? Check out the school board meetings, look at your school's website and see if this is being implemented, incorporated. And if it is, voice your concerns, right? Raise your hand, say something, because chances are some folks aren't looking for something like this. And it might seem benign, but it's not. I mean, it's really flawed. And it's corrupt, and it's just not something that belongs in schools, especially when you consider that young Americans, right, we're seeing that this younger generation is not patriotic, right, and that's a concern. And I think that all of this activist propaganda that's being pushed in classrooms, I absolutely think that's playing a role.
Do you think that this stuff is going to pay off for those on the left that are pushing this type of information to students that are recently eligible to vote? Or do you think that the work that you guys are doing at PDE is countering that effectively? And not just you guys, I mean, me on the radio, just everybody that's trying to make the truth known. How do you think it pans out next Tuesday?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think sanity will prevail. Right. I think that parents over the past several years, right. I think COVID was an odd time, right, for multiple reasons. We had the school closures, awful pandemic policies, right, and now we saw how wrong they were. And I think what happened was, what I call the great parent awakening, right, happened in 2020. A lot of parents, myself included, were Fairfax County. So we saw our school system just completely abandon their responsibilities and abandon children's learning. And so I think there was, by awakening, I mean, parents started paying attention, right? They started paying attention to what children were learning, what they were bringing home, what sort of other lessons were being incorporated in schools. And so I think none of it has, I think what's gotten better is that parents are paying attention, right? I think, again, sanity is really what parents want, right? They want neutral learning environments for their children. They don't want politics on either side to be taking place of the math and reading and science that should be consumed in schools. And so I think that parents have absolutely paid attention to that. And so we'll see what happens.
Now, for anybody who wants to learn more about what you're doing, op-eds you're writing, how do they follow you? How do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Michele Exner. I believe it's Michele, 1L, P. Exner over on X. And then also our organization, you can find us on defendinged.org. We have what we call an indoctrination map. So anytime that we find things that shouldn't be happening in schools, we work to expose it and to empower parents with that information. And so we have a map there that basically lists everything out that we find. And how we find things, it's either tips from parents, directly from parents, and also public records requests that we push. We push hundreds a year just to make sure that the parents have transparency that they deserve to have when it comes to their children's education.
Outstanding. Michele Exner, I want to thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rich.
You bet. All right, amigos, we continue. We're going to get ready to kick off open phones across America, but you can start getting your calls in now, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who, again, will do a fine job, but I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation. And earlier I mentioned to you that Instagram is doing their best to throttle me downward, right? They don't want anybody to see my stuff. They don't want you to like my post. They don't want you to see my post. And they just told me that they are going to show less of my stuff. It's going to appear lower in other people's feeds because they say that I'm a fake, phony, and a fraud. Why? Because of the article I just read you. I just shared you the video that's embedded in that article from the Fox affiliate in Kentucky, as well as there's another one too. I mean, there's a few of them here. It's a pretty widely reported story from last night and earlier today, WHAS 11, etc. And yet, while the video is there, right? It's not my video; it's somebody else's video. I just shared it. Them saying, "Look, this is what happened to me in the voting booth." That's all they said. They showed it. They didn't say it. They showed it. Them hitting the Trump button and it coming out for Harris. Then the voting people, the officials, the government people, they say, well, we pulled the machine, we couldn't see it. Then they go, okay, we pulled the machine. Actually, we were able to see it, but then we were never able to see it again. Okay. So if you're saying that you didn't see it, and now you're saying, okay, we actually did replicate the error that they're calling it, then you can't say that people like me are fake, phonies, and frauds. If somebody's got a video, proof that it happened. I mean, just think of that, right? Somebody's got a video of somebody shooting somebody, and then you go and go, well, we really can't do that because, we couldn't replicate it. When we grabbed the gun didn't shoot. So therefore, your video is fake, phony, and fraud. No, sir. It doesn't work that way. But that's how they do it. And they lie, and they lie, and they lie. And they use their lies to create their own truth. And Hugh Hewitt has been a moderate. He was a Reagan guy. He's a very moderate. I think he was even anti-Trump for a while. I may or may not be right on that. But I know he's been in this game for a long time. And he was a columnist with the Washington Post. And he did this interview, and you might have seen it already, where he gets up and he walks away. But there's some new information on that. So I want you first to hear the audio clip of Hugh Hewitt getting up and walking away.
No election can be fair in Donald Trump's mind, unless Donald Trump wins it. And I think we are going to see him both rev up his supporters to contest elections outside of courtrooms and go to every courtroom he can in America where it's relevant to make whatever arguments he can, no matter how far-fetched. We saw
Jonathan,
that
I've
work
got
out last time, but it didn't work out this time. It may not work. That may not happen this time. And now I'll let you go, Hugh.
Well, I've just got to say, we're news people, even though we're at the opinion section. It's got to be reported. Bucks County was reversed by the court and instructed to open up extra days because they violated the law and told people to go home. So that lawsuit was brought by the Republican National Committee, and it was successful. The Supreme Court ruled that Glenn Youngkin was successful. We are news people, even though we have opinions, and we have to report the whole story if we bring up part of the story. So yes, he's upset about Bucks County, but he was right, and he won in court. That's the story.
That's Hugh Hewitt. He's on with Ruth Marcus, associate editor.
No, I don't appreciate being lectured about reporting when Hugh, many times you come here saying lots of things that aren't.
I won't come back, Jonathan. I'm done. I'm done. This is the most unfair election ad I have ever been a part of. You guys are working. That's fine. I'm done.
That's Hugh Hewitt. Takes off his mic and he walks away. He was on with Jonathan Capehart and the associate editor of the Washington Post, and seemed to really hit a nerve. Listen, I know. I get my nerves hit all the time. I have meltdowns like that on a regular basis. I think that's probably why they don't invite me anywhere, right? You don't see me on CNN or anything like that, because I can only take but so much of the lefties throwing stuff at me. And I'm pretty calm, honestly. The problem is they don't like it when you tell the truth. They don't like it when you push back, and they don't like it when you think for yourself. But that's where we are. And if they have power to shut you up, they will. They can turn off your mic, if they can turn off your radio show, if they can buy your radio station and make sure you're not on it anymore, if they can mute your Instagram account, whatever they can do, they're going to do, because they don't like people. Sometimes if millions and millions and millions of followers like Trump, they'll get rid of you. But otherwise, sometimes the bigger following really protects you, because, they don't want to have to deal with the fallout. So they have to be a little bit more judicious in their censorship. But the censorship and the lying continues. Anyway, folks, I'm coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
And this is how Donald Trump ends his campaign, calling for 9 rifles aimed at Liz Cheney's face to shoot at her face. This is how Donald Trump is ending his campaign for president.
That's Joe Scarborough, host of The Morning Joke on MSNBC, and he says exactly what you heard him say. He's mischaracterizing everything that Trump said. Now you're saying, but that's factually accurate, Rich. Donald Trump said, no, he didn't call for those rifles to be in her face. He said she'd be singing a different tune if she had the rifles in her face, right? Isn't that what he said? Do we have time to play the clip from Trump, Count? Let's do it.
I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person.
So there you have Trump. That's what he said. And he said they're all war hawks until. He didn't say, I'm calling for the guns to be trained on her face. He didn't say that, right? So why is Joe Scarborough saying that, Joke Scarborough? I'll tell you why. Because he wants you to think that Trump is some sort of strongman, autocrat, evil, Hitlerian type. And some of you are listening right now and they're saying, oh, Rich, you make sense so much of the time, except for when you defend El Dorito, Orange Man bad. You have to be able to look at things objectively. And some people will never be able to, and that's okay. I get it. But that doesn't mean I have to suffer from your illness, right? I'm able to discern the difference here. Trump's not calling for anybody. I mean, in effect, he's just saying, let her go to the army. Let her fight this fight. Okay, I get that. That's it. Punto y final, period, the end. He never said she should be brought in front of a firing squad. He never said that she should be shot in the face. And guess what? That's not how he's ending his campaign. He's ending his campaign on Tuesday, hopefully, with a victory speech. Folks, we're coming right back. The music means it's time for me to take a quick pause, and you guys can get your calls in, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. It's open phones across America, and like clockwork, every night, everybody calls in at 5 minutes to the end of the hour. Call in now so we can actually talk. 833-4-VALDEZ. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, Here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, happy to be here. Our phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to talk a little bit about, of course, the election. We're all election all the time until Tuesday. Then we can go back to some of our other fun, crazy things that we like to do in the third hour, and we'll add in a little bit of that as we go. But there's so much good stuff out there to respond to. And I'm a little bit perturbed. Why? Not disturbed, but perturbed. I'm perturbed because I shared a story on Instagram, and if you've been listening to all 3 hours, you've heard this story before. But I'm really ticked off about this because I feel so, I guess the word is vulnerable, right? If you want to reach the few thousand people that I can reach on Instagram, because I don't really have a big audience on Instagram. Nobody seems to like it, except for me. I think it's a fun app. You know, I like Truth Social. I like a lot of them. But Instagram is fun. And despite its funness, they hate my guts. They hate my guts. They hate the truth. They hate conservatives. They come up with any reason to say that what you're sharing is false so that they can depress it so that nobody can see it. Now, this is exactly what they did last October 20-something. Right? And today's the beginning of November. But when the Hunter Biden laptop came out, they said, that's fake, it's phony, it's fraud, that's not the real deal. And, of course, it was the real deal. And they including Twitter back then, right, they suspended the account of the New York Post, America's oldest newspaper, saying that they couldn't use their account until they deleted the post, saying that Hunter Biden's laptop was incriminating and this and that. All of it turned out to be true, and we had the reporter who released that story, Emma Jo Morris, or was the editor on that story. She'd been on our program before, and the whole thing was a lie from the social media company and the truth from the New York Post. They lied to keep them out because the FBI was working with them, and in fact, one guy who was with the FBI ended up becoming one of a paid staff member at Twitter. Remember that whole thing? I do. I remember it like clockwork. Crazy times. People from the government were seamlessly going right into social media. It creates a problem for me because my gut reaction, like many people, maybe not many of you, but like many people, maybe perhaps some on the left, is I tend to be skeptical of certain things upon hearing them. So if somebody were to tell me, you know, Twitter, Google, Facebook, Instagram, those things aren't real companies. They're fake companies. They are companies that were created just so that they could get your information because it's illegal for the government to track you the way they do, but for the NSA. But it's legal for you to do it if it's a private industry. So the CIA created these companies to track you, to spy on you, to know every last bit of your life. I would say, you know what? Very active imagination. That's not happening in my country. Thank you very much. Now, some of you would say, Rich, that's way too naive of you to say. How could you be so quick to dismiss it? Because I tend to be very quick to dismiss anything I don't know anything about. Then my job is to go find out about it. Start making some calls, calling reporters I know, calling congressmen I know, calling former generals I know, calling anybody I know that's got access to information and knows people that can tell me what the scoop is on these things. Sometimes I'll even bring those people on the radio and get the scoop from them so you can hear it too. So I say that's my speed. However, when you start doing stuff like this, it makes them seem incredibly credible. Now, there's a couple that are on Twitter that they love to try to taunt me all the time, saying that, you know, like when I said Michelle Obama's not going to be the nominee. No, you don't know what you're talking about. And the reason I make these bold predictions, if you will, is because I remember, I don't know, many years ago now, it's 2007, and I remember seeing this really bright, energetic black guy from Chicago giving a speech on C-SPAN. I used to like watching C-SPAN. Like, that was my leave it on all day kind of TV channel. because it covered Congress, and I like to see what was going on. And I remember seeing this guy, and I was like, wow, this guy, what a heck of a speech he just gave. I don't agree with him, but he's sharp. And I looked at I was married back then, and I looked at my wife, and I said, that guy's going to be president one day. His name, Barack Hussein Obama. I was in my 20s when that happened, 26 or so. And I can tell you, it's kind of like I understood the brand. I understood how the media worked. I understood what sold to people. People like a certain brand of things. And he was it. And I knew he would make it. I remember some time went on, and then he spoke at the DNC and gave a great speech there. And people, oh, this guy's terrific. And I said, I knew I was right. This guy's going to run. And everybody was saying, no, it's going to be a guy named Evan Bay or Evan Bay or whatever. And that guy came and went quick. And the guy that I thought was going to run ran. And he won. And I knew he was going to win because I felt like it was unstoppable. The story was too good. A good story is what wins in many cases. But it was because it was a good story that was protected by the media. It's the story they created. It's the story they like. And if they create and like the story, that's the story that you get. And that's where it gets tricky. So fast forward a little bit, and people are telling me, oh, yeah, that guy, Obama, and then he becomes a senator, right? Now it's Senator Obama, and they're like, oh, Senator Obama's running. Oh, a U.S. senator has never really won. It's only happened once in history. And the other guy would say, when we're talking about politics, the other guy, America's not ready to elect a black man as a president, so forget about that. That guy's not going anywhere. Then the fourth guy would step into the conversation. Before that guy gets elected, he will be assassinated. Trust me, America, they did it to Martin Luther King, and they did it to Kennedy just for being sympathetic to the blacks. There's no way America elects a black president, right? I remember hearing this and thinking to myself, by what authority do you make these claims? Like, from where? In my head, it was a foregone conclusion that Barack Obama would become president. He had it. He had everything going for him. They loved him, and they were going to coronate him, right? And he was able to deliver because he had charm. Well, I was right again. And I thought to myself, that's the way to win. You just have to have the package that they like. But everything changed when Trump came around. He is the package that they like. The media could very easily love Trump if he were a Democrat, if he were on their side. Celebrity darling, television superstar, Donald Trump, billionaire, Donald Trump, playboy, charming playboy, millionaire, Donald Trump, right? They would love it because that's how they used to talk about him. Celebrity businessman. He was a rock star, an absolute rock star. Now, he is Hitler. He's Satan. He's killing Liz Cheney. He's doing all sorts of things that they say. How do we get there? Well, through the work of so many people in this business that are there to destroy Trump, to create absolute falsehoods. My girlfriend, not a very political person, IT person in the healthcare world, she turns to me and she says, I'm open to voting for Trump. I agree with a lot of what he says, and I understand why people demonize him, and I don't think he gets a fair shake. But I don't know, some of the things that, this whole abortion ban, it's like, let people do what they want. And she's like, and I'm pro-life, but, who am I to tell people? And I thought to myself, look at that. Willing to vote for Trump, pro-life, personally, her own choice, but doesn't want to impose that upon women that are raped by their family members or women that are raped by strangers. And that's how they position it. They say Trump is imposing a national abortion ban and will track abortions even if it's the result of rape or incest. Now, what woman that may have had a friend that went through something horrific like that would say, well, you know what, I can get behind that? Very few. Most women are going to say, look, I draw the line there, and I get it. And I had explained to her, Trump doesn't, A, have the power to do this abortion ban, and he's literally said he's not going to do it 1,000,000 times. But they won't play that for you. The same way they keep talking about suckers and losers as if that's an actual quote. The same way they keep talking about good people on both sides as if he did not disavow the Nazis and white supremacists. I mean, it's been one lie after another with him. Well, this is how it goes, because you've got people out there that lie. I come out here every day. I defend Trump. I try to tell the truth, and I try to dismantle the lies that the media is telling you. I don't think that I'm telling you a lie. That's why I get so mad when I just share something that actually happened, and they have admitted that it happened, that the machine had a glitch, and that's all the story says. The machine had a glitch. It's not saying every machine has a glitch. It's not saying anything other than this machine had a glitch, and they tapped Trump, and it came out Harris, and it happened in Kentucky. And finally, the Kentucky county clerk admitted that. But I'm still fighting with Instagram. And I think I had a report filed. I don't know if I got a response on it yet. Bottom line here, there are people out there that are doing this dirty work. And one of those people is Stacey Abrams. She's out there making all sorts of claims about Trump and Cheney and authoritarianism. And you heard the Trump clip. Trump said that Cheney is a bloodthirsty war hawk that would likely change her tune if she were facing the barrel of a gun, if the gun was trained on her and she wasn't sending off someone else's children to go fight, maybe she'd look at this differently. Here's what Stacey Abrams said.
What do you think of what is, I mean, it's going to be settling in today, what Donald Trump said yesterday, and Liz Cheney responding this morning to Donald Trump suggesting she should be put in front of a firing line. And the fact that Now,
he never said she should be put in front of a firing line. But look at how this woman, again, now this woman is not purporting to be an opinion person or anything like that. This woman is pretending to be a journalist. She's pretending to share facts with you. So you as a non-suspecting person thinking this lady's job is to give me the facts, you come here and now voila, this lady's lying to you. And this is the big problem I have. If she were to come out there and say, like Joy Reid, different critique for Joy Reid, right? Joy Reid comes out there and gives you her opinion. And man, what an opinion it is. I may not agree with it, but boy, do I love hearing that stuff so that I can challenge it on the air. But this woman here on CNN today, Kate Baldwin, she's saying that this is fact. She's presenting it as fact. Trump never said anything about a firing squad. Go ahead.
This is going to be, it's not surprising coming from Donald Trump.
Here's the problem. We know that strongmen, the authoritarianism begins with the kind of coarse language, the kind of dehumanizing language that Donald Trump uses. But we also have to look at
who's using the coarse language? Because let me say something. Donald Trump is talking about a lot of things, and he's been out there. Guess what? He was president for 4 years. I want to know, you tell me, did anybody shoot anybody else besides Trump? To me, it seems it's the inflammatory rhetoric, the strongman language that Biden used. That ominous dark tone calling us MAGA extremists. It's the rhetoric that Kamala Harris uses. That's what's prompting the response and the result of what's going on with Trump. And this has been going on. They spied on the campaign. They spied on him as president. That was proven in the Mueller report, and that's why nothing came about of it. As well as in the Inspector General report. It's all there. Somebody went to jail for falsifying documents so that they could spy on him. They impeached him once while he was in office for what he calls a perfect phone call. And now we know, man, what a good call it was to slow down that aid to Ukraine. They're giving it hand over fist, and we're going broke as a result. And then you've got the lawfare. After he gets out, right when he says, hey, I'm going to be running for president. Oh, by the way, we've got 4 indictments for you, and we're going to put you in jail for 100 years. But it doesn't stop there. They pull the trigger, and they train the guns on him. He's actually shot at. Then they find people with guns near his golf course. You're going to tell me that somehow his rhetoric is what's creating this problem? If his rhetoric was getting anywhere and really inflaming people, they'd be shooting at somebody else, not at him. Unbelievable. Anyway, your thoughts and more when we come back. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, folks, we're doing the speed round early because there's so many people that want to get in tonight. And then we're off tomorrow and Sunday. I'll be back Monday with 1 day until Election Day. But I want to go to Lance. No, not Lance. I'm sorry. I want to go to Wayne, Bonners Ferry, Idaho, KBFI. Go ahead.
Thank you, Rich, for taking my call, and I really appreciate your service. And I really enjoyed that show that you had with Dr. Mack on the other night. And up here in this flyover state of Idaho, which I'm telling you, the airports we have here, it's a white knuckle landing every time. And there's no reason to stop in Idaho. These people don't understand what's going on here in the food belts of this country. And that's some reasons why I believe our elite in our major cities really resent us, because we supply them with everything they need, their food, their timber, there wouldn't be a hamburger in McDonald's if it wasn't for the alfalfa that is grown up here above the 45th parallel.
Wow. I never looked at it that way, at least the alfalfa part. Of course, we appreciate everybody that's out there farming and whatnot. And, yeah, you're right. People don't know what's going on, especially those. And I come from a big city, right? New York City, the biggest city ever. I was born in Brooklyn. I still live, a few miles away from Manhattan. And I can tell you, we have an appreciation for everybody that's pushing a big truck. Those big rigs bring the food to the supermarkets, and nobody's eating without those. So you're 100% right, brother. I appreciate it. And God bless you, man. Thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate that you enjoy the show. I want to continue. I want to go to, where'd my guy go? He's not there now. Lance in Kalispell, Montana. If you're listening, I was going to you next, and you're not there. Let's go to Jerome calling us from Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Jerome, go ahead.
Why would you want to talk to Lance when you have the esteemed pleasure of speaking to me? Huh?
I know. What's wrong with me?
Want to do something? What you talking about, Willis? Hey, by the way, the only thing Trump has done a real good job of dodging are the draft and the vice president, because he don't want none of that anymore. He don't want to debate her. He don't want to do any interviews with anybody that old suck up to.
Well, Jerome, in fairness, Trump has actually debated more people than anybody else running for president, right? He's literally done more presidential debates than any other person ever. He had the debate with 15 people back in 2016. Then he did the debate with Biden and these other people now. And then they switched the candidate on him now in this last go-round. So, if anything, he's got a leg up on everybody running for president 3 times against many different people, more than anybody else. Jerome, thanks for the call, brother. I appreciate it. Folks, we're coming right back with the rest of your calls and more. Keep your comments brief and succinct. Give me the 1-2 punch. We're getting through a lot of calls tonight. Calls from Vermont, Florida, Montana, South Carolina, Arkansas, Illinois, New York, California, and more. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-4-VALDEZ.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And we continue the conversation tonight. We've been talking about a lot. Is Trump calling for the assassination of Lynn Cheney? Not Lynn, that's her sister. Liz Cheney? No, he's not. And what else did we talk about? We had a lot going on tonight. Anyway, I want to get to your calls. Let me see. Where do we go here? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Let's go to Lisa. Go for it.
Hey, Rich. Listen.
Hi.
Number one, I'm a Trumper, okay? I'm going to put it right out there, okay? Number two, listen. I was in a Pittsburgh public school and graduated. And I got pregnant with my oldest son, and everyone told me to abort my child. And 3 years ago, if I would have aborted that child, my last child would have died because he gave him half his liver. So
Wow.
there you go, pro-lifer, okay?
What a
Okay?
story,
Number
Lisa.
one.
That's amazing. You know, I have a friend, actually my lawyer. I went to high school with her, though. And she was able to give her mom a kidney not too long ago. And I think those are just remarkable acts of love and courage and service to one, to one's family and to fellow humans. So God bless him. That's a great thing.
Yes. But for someone in a public school to tell me to give up my child. Okay.
Oh, like a school official?
Well, that's number one. Yes.
Yeah.
When I was
You go
in
there
the
looking
public
for help from a guidance counselor. Hey, I'm pouring your heart out. I have a problem. I'm a teenager. I'm pregnant. What do I do? Kill the kid. Absolute insanity. I know. That's why I'm so grateful whenever we have folks from those pro-life pregnancy crisis centers where they give you options and they help you with whatever help they can actually provide. I think that's such a great service to the community, and it helps people like the situation you were in and those that may be facing that today. Lisa, thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work in Pittsburgh. Give them hell out there because you guys are in the battleground. And let's continue. Where do we go now? We're going to go to Mike, Akron, Ohio, WNIR. Mike, what's going on, brother?
Hey, I just wanted to inform America that if you really want to know what's going on in the economy, ask a truck driver.
Yeah.
I am a truck driver.
You guys are delivering everything.
Everything a trucker everything you have touched, a trucker has delivered one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Thank a truck driver, if anything else. Get informed because, I'll tell you right now, I work for a formidable trucking outfit right now. Really can't say the name, but the business has gone down quite a bit. And it's like, because the economy is in the tank. Because the way this administration is running the economy is running it into the ground.
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me. You see the headline today? Mike, did you see that? The 12,000 jobs were created in the last month. 12,000 jobs when they predicted 112,000. I mean, the market started to slip the last time they missed by like 20 or 30,000. They missed by almost 100,000. What's going on?
It's just people aren't buying things because they can't afford things because they're trying to pay their electric, their cars, their house, the mortgage, everything. But they can't buy food for the table because everything's so expensive. I mean, we're not being able to deliver stuff because people can't buy stuff. They're paying their, in necessities what they need to pay for. And it's not fair to the American people that people are trying to get her into the office. I can't even say her name because I can't.
Yeah, no, I hear you, brother.
I mean, she needs to go and relearn, from her grassroots where she came from because she is definitely not, doesn't know what she's doing.
She's not on our side, right? And I don't mean Republicans or conservatives. I mean like Americans. She's not on the side of her own country. Like there's not a policy that I can think of where she's helping people. Everything seems to be detrimental. And that, sadly, is just not something that's going to work well for Americans. And I hope everybody can see it as well as you see it, Mike, come this Tuesday. God bless you, brother. WNIR. We're going to continue. Where do I go now? Stand by. Stand with me. Hold on. I got to make sure I get to the person that was next in line. I'm going to go to Tom, Columbia, South Carolina, WQXL. Excuse me. Go for it.
Hey, Mr. Valdez, would you like to hear some comments about the election?
I love those comments. Go for it.
It's a tough choice. On the one hand, someone who's tough and can manage, or someone who's done enough damage. It's a tough choice. A candidate who got shot, or one who looks shot. Hard on drugs, or on drugs. Close the border, or chose disorder. It's a tough choice. A candidate doubling down for this race, or dumbs down for her base. Protects the laws from her, or projects her flaws on him. Knows what's better, reflecting he's been in office, or says whatever, getting her into office. A candidate for all Americans, dang right, or a candidate for all Americans, yeah, right. It's the tough choice. And finally, reveals his true direction before the election, or conceals her true direction until after the election, then thinks it's funny thereafter. You hear her crazy laughter. It's a tough choice. Or not. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, thank you, brother. I always appreciate those. That's clever, man. I wish I had a skill like that where I could come up with clever things like that. That would be my opening monologue in every segment, in every hour. Anyway, I want to continue our calls across America. Thank you so much. Let's go to Nick in Chicago, Illinois on WLS. Nick, go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. It's always a nice show you have. It's very pleasant and intelligent and all kinds of nice stuff, especially in the evening.
Thank you.
I was going to say that I hear some stories about people having problems, like one report I heard on the radio. I don't know how people know when you put your card in to the reader, to that machine that pulls your card in, you know, that big card that you fill out with your choices. I don't know
you're
how
saying
you know,
for voting machines?
Yeah, the voting. Yeah, right, the voting machine. I don't know how you as a voter would know that it accidentally or whatever did not pick Trump as you had picked. It picked instead Harris. I don't know how that works. But what I was going to say, making videos of things is a little tricky going into these places because of your own card. You can do that. You can take a picture of it. But I was saying that if you went in with a legal pad, and I say legal meaning the size of they're usually
a long
5
yellow
by 9
one.
inch. A yellow one is good because it looks more business-like, you know. And even if you walk in with a 3 by 5 inch pad of scratch paper, but go in and make notes of things that you think are not quite right. These people should have a name stuck on their clothing, you know, that shows their, you know, at least their first name. If not, write down a description of what the person, you know, the male, even though somebody might later on say that was not a male, that was some other form of a person. But anyhow, but your idea of what the person looks like, and you know, this then will give these people a little concern here and there, because you know, if there's 25 votes,
you're saying, I think I get what you're saying. You're saying to make a paper trail, and you know, in some states, I guess you're allowed, because most polling locations are public places. You're allowed to videotape in many states, depending on that state's law. So I would always recommend checking the state's law. I know in some places you're not allowed to videotape inside the voting booth, and that's a whole crime in and of itself. So you got to be careful with that. But another thing that I've learned, and somebody told me about that on this program, was that when they go to vote, you can print a receipt that will, I think, tell you how you cast your vote. It doesn't put your name on it, but it gives you a receipt. Like, you know, voter number 1,237 voted for Trump. And you can get that and then take that receipt with you to make sure it matched what you actually put in the machine. And they keep a copy of that same receipt, which is how they do a hand count in the event of a cyber attack, a blackout, anything like that. So good idea to keep track of your votes, because I think there's a lot of people. Like I said, my kid, she's been eligible to vote for years. She's 23, and this is the first year she's like, I'm getting myself a mail-in ballot, because she's going to be in Virginia on Election Day, and I'm going to vote. My other daughter's like, I'm showing up on Election Day, and if we can go early, let's go together. They've never had an interest in voting before, but you know what? They have jobs, and they're both in college, but they have jobs, and they realize things were better before. And that's as simple as it gets. Everybody realizes that. So I think that the momentum is on Trump's side here. We just have to make sure that the systems work for the people. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Folks, I'm going to pause right here. We're going to come right back with the rest of your calls and more. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Well, thank you so much for having me back on, Rich. I always enjoy talking to you.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I kind of trust pollsters less. Every time a pollster, every state is just a +1. Every single state's a tie. No, you're hurting. You're cheating. Your numbers aren't all going to come out at exactly 1-point leads when you're sampling 800 people over dozens of surveys. You are lying. You're putting a finger on the scale. I will not name names, but some pollsters are really bad about this. Emerson College.
That's polling guru.
Was that recorded?
Nate Silver.
Sorry.
And he's talking about how some of his colleagues, in particular the ones he shouted out there, Emerson College, are cheating. Effing cheating is what he said. And he's accusing them of recycling certain results to keep the race between Trump and Kamala very close, but suggesting it's not as close as it was, a few weeks back. And I think that's an important point, because I thought about that this morning. And I thought, how is it that I can't find somebody that's like, yeah, look, I'm voting for Harris because I got two people, two in my little world of private people that I know. That's it. And nobody else. And how is that even possible? And one of those two people on 3 occasions in the last 2 months has told me I'm probably going to vote for Trump. So, I mean, if you talk about an undecided independent there, right? He's the founder of 538. It's always cited in the media. Probably won't be cited in the media much longer. But says it's irresponsible for pollsters that are herding their numbers, herding, herding, or using past results to affect current ones, effectively putting their thumb on the scales. And you heard him say it. I got the transcript in front of me. He says, I kind of trust pollsters less, Silver said on his podcast, calling out Emerson College. They all, every time a pollster says, every state is just +1, every single state's a tie. No, you're effing herding. You're cheating. He fumed. And he's right. This isn't the case. Anyway, he's saying that his model right now has Trump ahead of Harris 55 to 45%. And he's the guy that they used to say was the most reliable guy in the game. I like Trafalgar, Robert Cahaley from Trafalgar Group. I like John McLaughlin from McLaughlin Associates, his brother Jim McLaughlin, another heck of a nice guy. These guys are really good with their numbers. They take it seriously. They ask the right questions, and they know who to ask. And that's important. But I just wanted to leave that there with you. I want to continue and to go to John, Vero Beach, Florida, WTTV. Go right ahead.
Yes, Rich, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for being the consummate statesman.
Thank you.
I want to suggest or ask, why isn't there a forensic exam of these voting machines, and then when that's completed prior to election, and when that is completed, those machines are sealed, and no computer person whatsoever is allowed to hack into that machine or manipulate the machine or open it for any reason.
I think that's a great idea. And I can tell you that they probably have some version of a checklist that mimics that, but isn't even close. And the problem we face with this is really a problem for we the people. Trump can get elected 10 times over, and we're still going to have these electronic machines. Why? Because it's not a federal issue. It's something Trump has no control over. It's local counties that are deciding who they're buying their machines from, and maybe getting a grant or something from the state that may encourage them to go with certain companies or whatever. And ultimately, it's who runs your county government. It's not Trump. You're a lot closer to your county government than Trump is. So if that's a problem you see in your state or your locale, your municipality, in your county, you've got to be the person to either write that big check to somebody who's going to run for county commissioner, county executive, whatever position's available, and start making those changes. Start bribing your people, if you will, by way of legally bribing, of course, by way of donating to their campaign and saying, listen, we got to get back to paper ballots. We've got to get away from that. No more early voting. And see if, you can launch that campaign and win, because that's the only way it's going to happen. John in Vero Beach, WTTB, thank you. Have a great weekend. Let's go to Joe, Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Joe, go right ahead quickly.
Yeah, Rich, I had 3 points. I'll just do what I got time for. Number one, thanks for John Schneider. I would have recommended him a long time ago, but I didn't think you liked country music or the Confederate flag.
I don't like the Confederate flag, but I do like John Schneider.
when we got time, I'll explain the Christian history of that flag. We don't have time. Now, the second point that I need to get in here is I don't like to give you constructive criticism, but, boy, that bothered me when you said you're encouraging your daughters to go in the military. You know, like Schneider said, this new world order government, you know, you don't want them in because they're going to, you know, the draft may start. We're going to be in some more wars, especially if Trump don't make it, and I hope he does. But I would never encourage. I would never encourage the girls, especially.
I'll tell you, it's not encouragement. It's more like if they want to go, they've got my blessing. I'm not asking them to go. I'm not really saying, hey, you should consider the military. I've never done that. But I am saying if that's something you want to do, go right ahead. And it's something I say for myself. Up until the deadline for the National Guard was 39. I started when I was in my 20s, right after 9/11. I applied a bunch of different times. And the excuses that they gave me of why they weren't recruiting every time was crazy. You know, one time I was overweight. I understood that one. Another time it asked me if I had a certain amount of dependents. And if I had more than 2 dependents, they weren't accepting recruits with 2 more dependents. I told that to a few friends of mine in the military, and they said, those guys lied in your face. They just didn't want to do the paperwork or whatever because that wasn't even one of the criteria. But that was legit what happened to me. And then I tried again close to the 39 deadline, and they were like, look, it's going to be tough because they didn't have the recruitment problem that they have now. Now they'd probably take me. The problem is, you know, I'm 46 and they don't want me. I'd have to have had prior service. But again, I tried several times over a period of many years, and they just weren't interested. So I missed out. But I'd happily serve. And if my kids wanted to, I'd happily support them in that decision. Because ultimately, and a lot of people may not like this, but I believe in peace through strength, but we have to be able to back up the strength. And if we can't back up the strength part, if you think you can mouth off to me and you think I won't punch you in the face because I'm afraid of a lawsuit, or I won't punch you in the face because I'm afraid of getting arrested, then you clearly have it misunderstood. People have to realize that, yes, there is a consequence to your actions, and it may cost you to get punched in the face, or worse if you're dealing with the American military. And we have to remain the top dog. Otherwise, we're no longer walking quietly carrying the big stick. Joe in Salem, thank you, sir. Coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Walter, St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Talk to me about sanctuary cities, quickly.
Thanks, Rich. I'll talk fast. Here's another lie that's behind religious philosophies. Sanctuary cities, criminals of all sorts protected. In the Bible, as you being a chaplain, you know, there were cities of refuge ordered by God through Moses, then later Joshua, that protected a manslayer who killed someone completely by accident. And they would flee to these cities by law, could not be touched. So sanctuary cities, another lie, another trick, hermano.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Good point, Walter. Winston, Burlington, Vermont, WVMT.
Yes, hi, Rich. I'm going to get right to the point. I know by the government's own statistics, there's 300,000 underage children that have been distributed throughout the United States in the past 5 years.
And it's a damn shame. It's a crying shame. Some of them are gang members. The rest of them are being trafficked and exploited, working in factories overnight. The girls are being sold into sex slavery. It's a huge problem, and I blame Biden and Harris hands down. Winston, thanks for the call, brother. Great weekend. Jason in Aurora, Jim in Chicago. Shout out to WLS. They're throwing me off the air, but I'll be back, and you guys are first in line on Monday. Godspeed.